Okay. All right. So, um, once again, my name is Sarah Eiler. I am on the div team. I work at Southern Pines Primary, Southern Pines Elementary, and West Pine Middle. So we are soon to be one Southern Pines Elementary. We actually start moving on Friday, which I'm super excited about. So yay, I only get to go to 2 schools now, which is glorious. And my email address is there. Obviously, we're all Moore County Schools people, so you can find me in our email system either way. And then that's my Twitter handle in case you want to tweet at me. And then in the bottom corner of every screen, I've got the bit.ly that will get you to the actual slides for the presentation. And I'm also going to throw it in our chat really quick. It's just DE as in Discovery Ed, STB Basics. So I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of how to use the science textbook if you've never looked at it before. Hopefully, even if you've used it a bit, you can still find some ways that'll make your life a little bit easier. I'm recording, right? Yes. I clicked it. Oh, you guys. All right. So I am going to go live to site. So I'm actually going to kind of close out on the little Zoom screens here. What I did in the slides is you'll see a lot of screenshots. The reason for that is so that you can refer back to it later. So I am recording the meeting, which means that you can refer back to the actual recording of our session today. But I also wanted to give you some screenshots. So if you don't want to listen back through the whole recording, you can just kind of go to the slides and see some of the screenshots for the clicks that you need to make. So I'm going to go over kind of the basics, and then I'm going to go over some of the classroom management, the assigning side of Discovery Ed, and how to use the textbook to your advantage with our different learning management systems. So these are kind of my checklists for what I want to go over. So we're going to do how to change your grade level in the textbook if you log in and it's incorrect, the overview of the table of contents and the essential standards, the concept view. You'll notice that in Discovery Ed, they call chapters concepts. So if you just kind of get it in your head now that a concept is a chapter, it'll make your life easier in the long run. And then the science textbook is laid out by what they call the 5 E's. We're also going to look at what's in the model lesson, and then how to add to quick list, my content. And my helpful hint is if you ever get lost, the globe in the top right corner will always take you home. So it's like red sparkly heels. You'll always go home if you click on the globe in the corner. Okay. Minimize this friend here. There we go. So when you log in, if you haven't logged in, you'll just click login with Google. So just go to discoveryeducation.com. You can also type in google.discoveryeducation.com and you'll be able to log in. So you'll see on the homepage the science textbook here. So I'm going to click resume. It might say start if you've never gone into the science textbook before. And up here, I can change my course. Right now, I am logged in as a teacher at West Pine Middle. You should be logged in as a teacher at your school. You might not see grades 6, 7, 8 if you're not in a middle school. That's normal. You might only see your grade level. You should be able to see K through 5, but it kind of depends on our partnership with Discovery Education. You should at least be able to see your grade level. If you don't see your grade level, let me know and I can make sure that you're seeing the correct grade level. So since I've got some of my 6th grade friends in here with me, I'm going to click on my 6th grade. So when you go into the textbook, this is your first page, overview, table of contents, essential standards. The overview and the table of contents are going to show you the same thing. The big difference is the overview is a picture-based table of contents page, and your table of contents is, well, I always tell people it kind of replicates the actual table of contents in a textbook. So if you were to open a physical textbook, this is what your table of contents is going to look like. So when I go in to my table of contents here, I've got a little description of each of the concepts and what's in them. So if you can't figure it out from the picture, you can always click on table of contents and see it that way. It's also connected to the North Carolina Essential Standards. So you can click on Essential Standards and you can expand each of these standards until you see a blue standard. And when you click on the blue standard, it's going to give you resources in the textbook that support that standard. So if you're just looking for something quick to support the standard that you're working on, you can look at the essential standards page and click through until you see blue. And once you see blue, it's a hyperlink and you'll be able to search by essential standard. So I'm going to go back to my overview page. And I'm going to click, I think I was looking at transmission and absorption. Is that what y'all are on, Joan and Sue?
Yes.
Yep.
I picked well.
Yes. Thank you so much.
I was like, I think this is where they should be-ish.
Yep.
Judging by what I talk to them.
You're good, girl. You're good.
I try. Whew. That makes me feel better. Okay. So this is our 5Es page. So I did training for Discovery Education for 3 years for like 180 days a year. So this is what I used to do all the time. And so what I call this at the top of my screen, remember I said the globe is like clicking your red sparkly heels and it'll always take you home.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your globe in the corner. So you can always get to your home page. I'm not going to click on it because I don't want to have to click back into the textbook. But if you ever get confused, that's always there. And then at the top, I call this my breadcrumb trail. I like fairy tales. So I've got my course that I'm in, which is my 6th grade science. I've got my unit that I'm in, which is light energy. And then I've got my concept, which is transmission and absorption. I can click here and change to another concept or chapter within the unit at the top of the page. Just a couple little navigation tricks for you. Now, once I'm in the textbook, it is divided into the 5Es. And I did put screenshots of each of these pages to kind of show you what each E means. But engage is either going to activate prior knowledge or introduce them to the topic. The explore page is the actual textbook pages. So if you are looking for those actual, like we don't have a science textbook anymore, this is the science textbook, you're gonna wanna look at the explore pages. Explain is gonna ask students to explain what they learned, and elaborate with STEM is what I call the project tab. I could see this working really well during like a flex period, because what the elaborate tab does is it'll give you a project starter, a STEM project starter, or it will show the students a STEM career in action that uses the application of transmission and absorption. So somebody's career that focuses on these concepts. And then evaluate speaks for itself. It's your assessment tab. A couple of cool things about it while we're here. Every tab that has text, this is not everywhere in Discovery Education, but everywhere in the textbook that has text, you can highlight, and this should pop up. You might have a pop-up blocker, in which case you'll see a little thing pop up here in your search bar, but you can speak the text. Mine's being slow. Home internet problems. You can speak the text. You can also highlight portions of the text, and you can take notes. So if you have students taking notes at home and you want them to take a note, all of their notes save in the textbook as a little post-it note in the margin. And all of these notes actually show up. We're going to go over more that's over here. I call this the teacher dashboard. But all of their notes will show up in their notebook for the whole time that they're in your course. So as long as they're enrolled, even if you have like their class and it's still on your roster, on your list, they'll still be able to access their notes in the 6th grade science textbook. Another cool thing while we're talking about the speak aloud is that if you change the language, so over here you see language, there's reading level A and reading level B. B is the easier reading level. It really just changes some of the text chunking, and as long as it's not a vocab word, it will change it out for an easier word. But you can change it to Spanish. It changes the whole textbook into Spanish. Not every single resource that's connected is in Spanish. So all of the videos might not be in Spanish. But like this reading passage is still in English, but it does give you a description of what the passage is about in Spanish. And it reads aloud in Spanish as well. So if I click this, and my speak text didn't seem to be working earlier, it's very slow today. But once I click on my speak text, it will speak it to me in Spanish too. Change back to my English. So anything that's typed in the textbook is going to be available in Spanish. Not every resource on Discovery Education is available in Spanish. If they made one in Spanish, then it will be included in Spanish as well. All of these blue words will link you to an interactive glossary. So anytime you see a blue word, it's going to bring up a science glossary. It'll have an animation of the word. It'll have the definition of the word. And then when you click on video, you'll be able to see another video that includes the word reflect. I can see an image of a reflection, and then I can see additional details. So it'll give me the definition and the context of the word. That's all of my blue words anywhere in the textbook. So if you're like one of those teachers like I was that did a little vocabulary at the beginning of a unit, they can use the glossary and the blue words in the textbook to fill out their vocab sheets. And this Engage page has questions embedded in the text. My rule of thumb when I'm using the textbook is if it is embedded in the textbook, it stays in the textbook. So these questions that are embedded on this page, the answers that your students give you for these questions will live in the textbook. What I mean by that is over here on my teacher dashboard, you see the word results with a little chart. I click on concept dashboard, and this is going to show me the results of my students on this Engage page in these questions. So I'm not a classroom teacher, so at this point I did throw some students from West Pine Middle into a class just so you could see. So there's the student names. I'm going to hide the student names again. And here's my questions. And what it would be is either a red box because they answered incorrectly and didn't get any points, a green box because they answered correctly and got all the points, or a blue box. If it's a constructed response question, it's going to be blue because you have to go back and grade constructed response. But this is what I mean when I say if the question lives in the textbook, then the student answers live in the textbook as well. So if you assign this Engage page or the Explore page and it has questions embedded in it, you're going to have to go back to that page in the textbook to look at the results. It's a quick little formative assessment so you can check on what students understood. If you're doing this as a whole class, so a lot of times the first time, especially with like my K-5 classes, the first time that we use Discovery Education, we might all do the Engage page together. So if we are all doing the Engage page together, then I would want to turn off my teacher view, which is my blue toggle over here. And that way I can answer the questions with my students. So you'll see green answers pop up, green correct answers go away. So I can toggle on and off my teacher view so that I can replicate what a student would see on this page, and I can pull it up on my smartboard or on my clear touch monitor in front of the whole class and show them what we can do together. And I definitely recommend doing that the first time or two that you're doing it. I know they've done that in 6th grade the first time that they've done it all together, but I definitely recommend it in our K-5 classrooms. Kind of as
Hey, Sarah, is this an okay time to jump in with a question?
Yes, please.
All right. So Ms. Kern is kind of asking about where the work goes, where the work lives, what's the integration with Canvas. She's saying that she's basically put assignments through Canvas in the past, but doesn't get those results. Can you talk through just kind of how that interaction works?
Yes. Okay. So I'm allowed to say this now because I don't work for Discovery Education anymore. Discovery Education has their own LMS, which is learning management system, which is what Canvas is for us and also what Google Classroom is for us in Moore County schools. So they want you to use their system because you're paying for it. So what they do is, and I'm going to talk about the ways that you can share out in just a second. But what they do is some of their activities, like these ones that are embedded in here, you could share the activity out to Canvas and you can share it out to Google Classroom, the link to this page, but you're going to have to come back to the textbook to see the results. They do have a share logo for Google Classroom, so it's easy to share to Google Classroom. It's also really easy to pull the shareable link and share it to Canvas. It's the same steps to get to the shareable link, whether you're sharing it to Classroom or Canvas. But the key is that if you want Discovery Education to grade it for you, so if Ms. Kern were to go to the evaluate page here and assign one of the assessments through the Discovery Education system, you're going to have to set up classes and assign it through Discovery Education if you want for it to grade the assessment for you. So you have to assign through Discovery for Discovery to grade it for you. Now, if you're having students complete an Engage or an Explore page, you can click here under the More. And I do have screenshots once again on the PowerPoint for that. And you can click Share. And you'll see your Google Classroom icon right here, which that will actually take me directly to Google Classroom to create an assignment. And then go, and I'll have to populate in my assignment, but it'll have my link right here. It does say sign in Google accounts, but of course, once they're logged into their Chromebook for the day, they're already signed in to Discovery Education. So they'll just click login with Google. And if I'm using Canvas, I'm going to want to pull this copyable link here. So I just click copy, and it's going to copy it to my clipboard. And then I'm going to post that link, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Will, as an external URL in Canvas. I think
that would work really well.
Okay. But once again, if you want Discovery Education System, like if you picked one of their 12 question multiple choice assessments and you want for their system to grade it, you're going to have to assign it through Discovery Education. But if they're just doing this Engage page and you just want them to do the embedded questions and you're just kind of counting that as maybe a completion grade, or you're just collecting it for formative assessment to see how they understand, then you can definitely just go through Google Classroom or through Canvas. And I did write on one of the slides, if you want Discovery to grade it for you, you have to assign it through Discovery. So I did make a point to put that on there.
I'll just, if I may just add in there, that's just part of some ongoing LMS wars that are happening around the world right now.
Yeah, because even when I was working with Discovery, they were trying to talk to Canvas, but it's like two companies coming to an agreement over the cost and the actual integration. It's just really difficult for those two companies to come to terms together. So, yeah, it's interesting. Actually, when I came and did PD in Moore County, it was the first time that we were transitioning to Canvas from the Discovery Ed side. So that was kind of fun too, to learn Canvas that way. Okay, so highlighting all of the text features. I went over the sharing out part. Let me look at my checklist. See, this is why I have a checklist. The 5 E's.
Sarah, may I just say one thing about the evaluations before we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you have to type in your students' names. They have to be populated. And then if you use their quizzes, their evaluations, it has to come from the content text information. So just in the past, like say you're giving notes in class, it's going to have to come from the content. We've noticed that, of course, it's the evaluation is going to line up with the content.
Right.
So
what Sue is getting at is that when you click on this evaluate tab and you're looking at this assessment, it's gonna best assess if you've used the explore tab as well. Right, Sue?
Yes, you have to use their content because it's going to ask you questions based on the content from explore.
Right. So the explore page is your actual textbook pages.
Yes.
And if you're using this explore page, then this assessment is going to reflect that.
Right.
Now, there is a way to build an assessment that's not under the evaluate tab. And I don't know if I'll get into that today, but there is a way to build an assessment that's not under the evaluate tab. But once again, it's still pulling your questions from the Discovery Education system. So it would still line up best with what they have in Discovery Education. And So on your Evaluate tab, and I'm going to talk about the classroom creation in just a second, which is what Sue was saying when she said you had to type in students' names. So here's the summative assessment for this concept or this chapter. A couple of things to note. First of all, you can print it. So if you want to print it and do it on paper in the classroom, you can. Downside of this assessment specifically is it has a question that they have to drag things over into the right section. So they would have to drag these different types of materials into whether they are translucent or transparent. So that would be a little difficult, obviously, to do on paper. So it would work best to your advantage to do this assessment as well as these drop-down menus and these matching items. So it would work best to do this on the computer. But there is a way, like I said, to create assessments that don't use any of these, what do they call these again? Text interactive questions or something. Interactive items. I can't remember. You guys, it's been a long time since I had to use all their little jargon. But all of these interactive items, there are different ways that you can go through. Oh, that kind of freaked me out.
I like this. It looks good.
So if I want to use this assessment and I want them to do it on the computer, I'm going to click Assign. Now, remember I said, if you want Discovery Education to grade it for you, you have to assign it through Discovery Education. So this is kind of the catch with the Google Classroom and Canvas integration with Discovery Education. Downside, it doesn't connect to PowerSchool. It does connect to PowerSchool to get the roster, but it doesn't connect as far as submitting the grades directly to PowerSchool. So what you would do is click Assign, and I've already created that little class of like 5 kids. So I'm going to pick the day that I want it to show up. I'm going to pick the day that I want to do, let's say Friday. I can select if I want them to be able to save and resume as they're working, or if I want to hide the final score. And then I would select my class. I can also from there select individual students. Let me go back to my classes because this one actually has students in it. So I can select just a few students. This would work great if you have students that need remediation. You can reassign a little assessment for them. And then I'm going to deselect all because I don't want these poor 6th graders to think that they're in my class and have an assignment for me. But you would select your students and then you would click Assign. And this assignment is going to show up under, I'm going to go away from the TechBook against my better judgment. This is going to show up under Classrooms. And then I'd have assignments here, which I didn't actually submit the assignment, right? So it's not showing up in this case, but anything that you've assigned will show up under assignments. Now, if you don't have a classroom collected and you a classroom created and you try to assign something, it's going to ask you to create a classroom when you try to assign. Like if you just clicked on Assign and you've never created a classroom in Discovery Education, it asks you to create a classroom. If you want to just create a classroom from your home page, once again, I clicked on the globe, I clicked on the word classrooms, and then I'm going to click all classrooms and I'm going to click create classroom. You have to put in a name. So I'll do block 2 as my name. You don't have to put in a description. And it's connected to my school's roster, which in this case is West Pine Middle. So I can either type in my students' last names. Let's see, I've done Johnson before because I know Steve Johnson's daughter. It'll bring up my Johnsons. Ooh, I might still be connected to the central office. I don't know why it's not bringing anybody up. So next to each student's name, you guys, my dog sounds really fierce, but she runs away from everything once the person's inside the house. So I can click add here next to each student's name. And then I'm adding these all to my class and I can scroll through and see what students I need to add in. And the cool thing is they recently changed this. You don't actually have to press the save button or anything. You can, once you've got your classroom members all set up, so these are all the kids that I just added to my class, then I just leave this page and it's going to automatically save the people that I added into my classroom. And so now I can go back to all classrooms and I see my block 2 with 10 kids. It used to be connected to PowerSchool. It has been that way at some districts, and that's what Will Herring and I were talking to Discovery Education about, if we can get these classes pre-populated or not. So for now, it's not pre-populated, but we are trying to figure out a way to pre-populate it. Under actions here, if you don't need that class anymore, you click archive. Archive is a bit of a misnomer because you are actually deleting it if you click archive. It's really hard for you to find it again, so it's not like it just goes into the trash folder. You would have to get in touch with Discovery Education to find that class again. Did any questions pop up in the chat, Will? No, those are just the ones that I hadn't seen.
Yeah, I think we're looking good right now.
Okay.
By all means, again, if you have a question, type it or just turn your mic on.
Please do. So that's all of my assignments in there. I did go over create a classroom. On the slides, I have screenshots of how to create a classroom. So if you forget, you can go back and do that. And I did go over really quick the clicking on more and then share. And then you can click your Google Classroom icon to create your assignment, or you can copy your link to share to Canvas. So those are going to be your easiest ways to go through that. The teacher dashboard, my reminder again, if it is embedded in the TechBook, results will be in the TechBook. So in here, if I assign that engage page, or I assign the explore page, and I want them to answer the questions that are embedded, then I'm gonna have to assign it through the TechBook. And once again, my results on my teacher dashboard over here are gonna show up under concept dashboard. And I will have my students' results here. And I added a bunch of students to that class. So now you can see my list got a little bit longer. And up here, I can change from engage to explore. So if my students did the engage page as well, I can just change over to my engage page here at the top. The explain page is the only thing that I was never really happy with from Discovery Education. Oftentimes it's the same thing, which is kind of irritating. It just asks them to give a scientific explanation. So it's every explain page, you'll see here this same prompt asking them to connect evidence to the claim, and they'll use a little video to make a claim over the video. So the explain's always the same prompt. It does change the question. So in this case, our explanation is, how can you predict if an object is more likely to transmit light or absorb light? It's always though gonna have this same little triangle graphic, and it's always gonna have a space for them to explain using evidence of what they have found from the text, what they found from the videos that they've watched, etc. Reminder, the Elaborate with STEM is our project starter tab. This is what I really like, is the STEM in action. So it gives them an idea of an actual career that would use these concepts of light energy that they're learning about. And then they also have an activity that they complete on that page. So they've got go efficiently and then test the bulb. So they have a short answer question where they need to answer a question using what they learned about that STEM career. In this case, there's the STEM in action, which is our career. There's STEM project starters, which give you ideas for projects that you can do hands-on. Keep in mind our COVID regulations for that, y'all. And then we've got the descriptions of these two projects. So test a solar cooker, which I know we used to do the fun s'mores thing, right? Don't know if that'll happen this year. And then high-tech light transmission. So what technologies are inspired by light transmission? And so they read a little bit about technologies inspired by light transmission and then upload their completed board here. So they would put their projects in there. And normally it has a little handout for them as well that can help them use that activity if they want to use that activity, if you want to use that activity in the classroom. Another thing on the Evaluate tab, I know I looked at the assessment. One thing that I really liked about it was the review page here. So to me, this makes my life easier because if I have a student that, let's say their IEP says that I have to print them out a review sheet, I can show them where this page is. And if I have really used the Explore page, then I've got this review sheet here that I can give to my students. And the practice assessment was also one of my favorite things. Only the practice assessments do this. But when they take this practice assessment, if they get a question wrong, it will direct them to a resource to help them correct their answer. So let's say that this number 1, there's a video in the Engage tab that tells them the correct answer. It will redirect them to that video on the Engage tab to help them answer the question correctly. I had a lot of teachers when I was working with Discovery that would assign this practice assessment the night before the assessment so that students could practice taking the same types of questions that they would see on the assessment. Any questions about my 5 E's? Nothing? You guys hear my poor dog walking around on our hardwood floor getting anxious because somebody's outside our house. Okay, under the model lesson, I just realized I never went over this tab and I told you I would. Under the model lesson, we've got our 5E instructional model. So here, this goes over each of the sections. Now, I'm sure Sue and Joan can tell you, and Stephanie, and Kelly, and Sheila, all my people that are in here that use Discovery Ed. They can tell you that they don't have 45 to 90 minutes right now to just do the Engage tab.
No.
Nope.
So I always told people when I did this, like in an ideal world where like, we didn't have COVID, which obviously I wasn't working for Discovery during COVID, but if we didn't have COVID and we didn't have snow days and we didn't have hurricane days and we didn't have the heat's not on in the building days or whatever, if we had a perfect world, then we could take 180 minutes to do the Explore section. The key is going to be to pick and choose what you think is the most useful. Like Sue was saying earlier, if you're going to use the assessment from the Evaluate tab, then you might want to make sure that you're using your Explore tab and the assessment from the Evaluate tab together. You don't have to use every single thing from the 5 E's. Basically what they have done is given you a ton. It's kind of like if you were to go Google search transmission and absorption and see how much came up. Discovery Education is doing the same thing. They're giving you as much as you could ever possibly need if it was an ideal world, and you could actually take 90, 180, 90, and 135 minutes to teach this unit, this chapter actually. But we all know that that's not possible. But this will walk you through each of those resources. So if you got kind of stressed out just looking at the Explore page, or you're like, I'm never going to remember that Engage is prior knowledge and Explore is the textbook and all of these things, you can click on Model Lesson and it's going to show you each resource that's listed under those pages. So under the Engage page, these are all of the videos and activities that are listed. Under the Explore page, obviously you're not going to see your core interactive text because that's your written portion, but you're going to see each of these videos. Okay, so you can watch the videos that match that topic just by going to the model lesson. It'll also give you teacher preparation. I always used to joke that this was like me looking up something on Wikipedia, but I don't have to use Wikipedia because it gives me my background knowledge as a teacher. So if you all of a sudden are teaching 7th grade science because that's where they had an opening, then you can look at the teacher preparation page and it's going to give you prior knowledge, differentiation strategies, additional lesson resources, and it's also going to give you your background information on this topic. You've also got your hands-on materials listed. So all of your materials to prepare if you're going to do your solar cooker activity, all your materials for the white light activity, guidelines for scientific investigation, and then any pre-created assessments or assignments that are listed under the 5E tabs are going to be listed under the model lessons, assignments, and resources. So if you're just looking for something quick that matches that unit of study or that chapter that you're on, you can always click on model lesson and just scroll through that way. I had a lot of teachers that would get really overwhelmed by trying to look through Engage, Explore, Explain, Elaborate, Evaluate. And so I would tell them to start out with the model lesson, and you can just click through that way. And it's a lot, at least to me, less overwhelming because I don't have a huge text block on the page. So you can go through it that way. If you're just looking for a reading passage, this is also a great way to do it. So I can just see the reading passage that's included in this section of the tech book. Now this has taken me out of the tech book when I clicked on that. But as you saw in the tech book, I had my share out arrow. So I can still just share out this reading passage. So if I don't want students to see that whole explore page and get confused that they have to read all of that, I can just share out this reading activity. I can also just share it out from this page. So I think that should be under my explore. Of course, I could be wrong. It's probably under explore more resources. There we go. So here's a different reading passage under explore more resources. I've got 3 dots. So remember I clicked on my 3 dots here, and then I clicked on my share out arrow. Each individual resource also has 3 dots, and then I can click share. And I brought up my Google Classroom copy link and my copy link for Canvas. So each individual resource has that, as well as the entire page. Keep in mind, if you click more and share from my teacher dashboard while I'm looking at this Explore More Resources page, it's going to navigate students to the Explore More Resources page. If I just want them to watch this video segment on light dependent reactions, I would click on my 3 arrows on that individual resource, click share, and then copy this link. You want to always click the 3 dots and share instead of pulling the link from the top, because what I've noticed is that sometimes when teachers pull the link from the top, it's a different URL than the student URL, and it's just going to take them to the homepage of Discovery Education. So that kind of defeats the purpose of sharing the exact link if it's not going to actually direct them where you want them to go. So you always want to click more and then share from there, or you want to click on the 3 dots in the corner and share from there. Everybody okay? I can't see your faces, which I don't know if I'm grateful for or not, because you might be giving me like the stare down. Okay.
Can I say something, Sarah?
Yeah, I was going to say something too.
I just want to pop in and say I'm new to Moore County. I'm new to science, and I have to say that Discovery Ed was probably a lifesaver for me because it gave me direction, and I was able to figure out, okay, what am I teaching? So it gave me the background that I needed, and I was also concerned about making sure that the instruction was rigorous, and I felt like this was really going to bump up the instruction.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had teachers say that and also say the opposite, that it was too rigorous and that they had to do a lot of scaffolding, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right. Yep.
So I think it's a good place to start. And for me, if I were, going back into the classroom, then I would really appreciate having a resource like this, just because it's the end all and be all.
Yep.
And like I said, they are giving you more than you could need, right? To make sure that you have enough. So you still have to pick and choose like what's appropriate for your students, what you feel like would work best in your classroom, and choose wisely that way.
Right. But it keeps you aligned with the essential standards too. And that's what I like about it. It always brings me back to the essential standards. So it's a great place.
And like I showed at the beginning, you can search by essential standard from that homepage for each of the units. So you can even search by essential standard on the initial page. Ms. Kern asked, can you review the best way to embed in Canvas? So I'm going to try to do that for you guys.
What I was thinking was it's just, I know there's the external tool and then it's like you can just click on Discovery App, but I always select the lesson and assign it to the class. But then I like to make sure I'm embedding it correctly in Canvas the same way, but it comes up with like a huge choice of assignments. And I like to make sure it's like selecting that lesson. I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the way I was doing it was the only way. And because of the LMS conflict or whatever's going on.
You're fine. So I had to, embarrassingly, because I've been in staff meetings since 7 a.m., I had to log into the Ed Cloud to do that. So it took me a second to get all logged into the Ed Cloud. Sorry, y'all.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again now that I'm in to the Ed Cloud. All right. You guys see my Canvas modules, right? You see 8 science modules at least. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're going to want to do, I'm just going to click on assignments, which remember you want all of your assignments to be embedded in modules. I'm just doing this to show you. Okay. Am I saying that right, Mr. Herring? I don't want him to yell at me later.
Great so far, but I'm listening.
Yell at me. I don't think. Maybe. Okay. So let's say that I'm going to pull, and what I normally try to do is make sure that my assignment title matches. So like, let's say I just want kids to do this engage page. So how does light energy interact with the objects around us? That was actually pretty good typing for being like on the spot in front of people. Okay, so I'm going to click my more here and then my share arrow, and I'm going to copy my link. So remember for Canvas, we're copying this link here. Okay, and I'm going to come back over to my Canvas. And I believe what I want to do is insert. I normally just do an external link like this. I'm not sure if that's what you do, Ms. Kern. I'm going to just type engage page as that, and then I'm going to put done.
Okay, I end up going over to the external tool. I guess it's the little electrical plug.
Yes. So you can do that as well because it's integrated this far with Discovery Ed, right? And what this does is it pulls up the Discovery Ed window within Canvas. Only downside of this is I'd have to keyword search probably for that.
Yeah, type in the title there at that point, I think, to try to put, that's what I wanted to be sure I was doing correctly. But
oh yeah, so here's my friend. So this is actually good that we looked at this, Ms. Kern, because this is a good point to make. Whenever you're looking at a page from the tech book, they call it core interactive text. So like when you're looking at these things that came up as my options for what to throw into the Canvas course here, into this assignment, there's my exploration. So that's going to be like an interactive video exploration where they're manipulating little things on the screen. But my core interactive text is going to be my actual textbook page. So hopefully this is the right one. So I'm going to click embed. Oh, I can't see it because of my screen sharing. I'm just going to leave it. I can't see it because of my Zoom things here. Hold on. My Zoom controls, y'all. There she goes. Okay. Oh boy. Oh, interact. And you want to be just as specific as you can. And then I've got my embed here. Why am I not getting a save? Somebody help me. What am I doing wrong? Bueller, nobody?
So, well, yeah, so typically what I see in this sort of, if you go to embed, it's going to give you it'll actually put the link in to a page on your course. But again, now you're the DE person, but when I've played with it, that's what I got.
Yeah.
And then when they click on it, you get that full, kind of the Discovery Ed layout, at least.
Yeah, it's not letting me save it. So I would still do the link, because what it does over here is you can see the they can click on Discovery Ed over here. But what this is going to do is, like, if I just do the text here, so like complete this engage page from Discovery Education, then it's going to link them out to that. So I've always done it as a link. Oh, of course it's too long.
There's your, yeah, 30 characters. I'm trying to think, if you want to do a file type here, could you do, like if you do it in Discovery Ed will grade it and it'll work great, but you do have to transpose your grades.
Yes.
Is it similar to like a Quizlet where at the end of it, if a student has gotten 100% right, it'll say 100% on their screen? Could they take a screenshot of it and then put that in as a file upload in Canvas?
It will say that for an assessment. And they could screenshot each individual question on the Engage page. But what's going to be easiest, because once again, Discovery Ed is trying to get you to use their LMS, is going to be to go to like on these pages, right, where it's got these questions embedded. It's going to be easiest to go to the results.
Okay, yeah.
And look at that concept dashboard.
That's what I was trying to ask earlier about, compared to like, Nearpod, the report just comes up in Canvas when I'm doing the speed grader as like 100% participation, 80% quiz result or whatever. So there's that conflict that's causing, even though I thought I was embedding it correctly using that external tool to help like completely pull it in.
And that's honestly a like Discovery Ed not playing well with Canvas thing. Does that make sense? Like they don't have a partnership and don't like each other.
I got it. So I just need to go back. I would like, I don't know how much time you have, but to at least figure out, like say the kid has done the participation portion or whatever, how you actually like get a graded report from the completion of the, let's say the lesson.
Yeah. We can definitely do that in a few minutes. I have another meeting at 10, but we can do it this afternoon. So. All right. Any other questions for me other than me needing to figure out the Canvas stitch again?
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's a good thing for us to figure out. That's why Will Herring and I have been talking to Discovery Ed to figure out what's the best way to do it with Canvas lately.
Hey, Sarah, I had a teacher ask if this PD will be digital or content for CEUs.
I was going to do it as digital, but since it was science, I will just have to talk to Lindsay Size and see if we can count it as science, but I'll ask her about it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Just let me know what it says.
Let me write that down so I don't forget.
Thank you.
Yeah. Count DE STB as science. Any other questions? All right. Thank you guys for stopping in. I did put on my PowerPoint, which you should have gotten the bit.ly. Guys, I'm not normally scatterbrained. I'm sorry. I don't know what's up with me today. But on the bit.ly, there is a sign in and feedback form just so that I can make sure that your credits get through the system. I'll ask Ms. Size about that and I'll get back in touch with Clint. I'm also going to throw it in the chat bar. All right, so there's our little form just to make sure that you get your DLC or if we can, science CEU credit. And thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Sarah. Every time I meet with you, I learn something new.
That's the goal. I'm excited.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
If you guys
you.
have questions, just shoot me an email.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, Sarah, what do we do with this